Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So we're carrying on with the KYOSHO Optima Mid 60th anniversary car, and well, we got the diff, the back end and the belt fastened to it. So let's crack on, see how far we get this time. Right, so we're going to be assembling the slipper clutch. So we're going to want this tiny little shim. And apparently this goes on first. Then we've got a slightly thicker shim. Then we're going to need our slipper clutch. So we've got a couple of little indentations around the slipper clutch itself. So you're going to want to line them up. And I believe they also do an uprated or different clutch pads. So I think you can get some white ones, optional parts, and I think it says white RB5. So they're UM516. But these are usually a bit fiddly to get on because the actual clutch pad itself tries to fall out. But you also need to line them up. Then they should drop in. Now it does say you can use tweezers to hold these on, but they do seem to go on pretty good. You just got to make sure that the little indentations don't sort of fall out. Then we're going to need a spring. Then we have a little lock nut. And you're going to want to tighten this down. I believe the stock setting is just flush. So we should just be able to tighten this down to the end. So you just want to get it flush, and it's not difficult to adjust these. But that's what we should be looking at. So his pinion's going to drive onto the spur, and then it will allow some slip. But that's what we should end up with. So let's see what else we've got. So moving along, we got these machine head screws, and we're going to want to drop them through, and then we're going to want a nut on each of these. Now it doesn't say thread lock these, and it does tell us that we're going to be using the top position. And again, I think we've got a few optional parts listed here. So we've got this part that you can buy in carbon, and I think there's also a few of the other suspension plates. So it's OTW138. So once we've got these in, we're just going to have to knit these up. So I think it is a 2.5mm hex on these. And don't go insane with these because it's only carbon fibre. Then we're going to want two more of these little screws, and this time we're going for the 2mm hex, and we're going to be fastening these to the top of the actual bulkhead. So we just want to get both these screws fastened in there. So I'll get these tightened down, and there we have it. So we've got a shock mount fitted, we've got a slipper clutch fitted. So let's see what else we've got. So moving on, it's now asking us to assemble our front bulkhead. So we're going to want to get a bearing in each of these, and it's not asking us for any shims this time. So, want a bearing in each of those. Then we're going to get us drive belt. And you're going to want to slide that in place. Just make sure you get your pulley on the right way round. Then we're going to be closing it up. Make sure you don't have your belt caught anywhere. Then we're going to want 2 of these little screws. And we're just going to get this tightened up. It's definitely strange feeling plastic, this. It does feel really solid. But don't forget, these are really fine thread. So I wouldn't go absolutely crazy tightening these up. But doesn't feel like there's any side to side play in that. So tolerance is pretty impressive. Then we're going to have to flip this round. So let's see what else we've got. So working through it, I'm going to try and do this in bits because it basically shows you all this as one step, and I can definitely see how somebody new to building RC or not as experienced with kits could get a little bit overwhelmed with this. So let's start off first by getting what I think are the shock mounts on the shock tower. And I think as instructions go, I don't think these are that bad at all. But I can definitely see how they could be slightly overwhelming. Because there are some steps where it does show you quite a lot. And I think the easiest thing to do is just break it up into smaller parts when you're doing them. So as we've done here, build the actual front bulkhead up first. Once you've got your front bulkhead built up, then you can move along to working onto the shock tower. Get that fully assembled. And then we just need to start putting these screws in to fasten it to the bulkhead. But if you do it in parts, it's not going to seem too bad. But I certainly think there's parts where somebody less experienced at building RC might get a little bit, as I say, overwhelmed with it. As builds go, it's been quite a nice build so far. I'll get these 4 screws fastened down and then move on to the next part. Right, so this is where we're at the moment. We've got the shock mounts in the top holes. We've got all 4 of these screws fastened in. Now it's asking us to make our hinge pins up. So from the look of this, it looks like basically we just need the 2 pins and then the 2 little clips. So we just need to put the little clips on. Get them in position first. And they can be really fiddly, but if you take your time with them, you'll get them on. And then it looks like it's asking us to slide these in from the back. So that's pretty much what we should be left with. We've got our hinge pins in, we've got these in the top mounts, there's 4 screws, and everything fastened together. So let's carry on. So this is going to be the layout of the chassis with the screws. Short ones at the front, 3 short ones at the rear, and then 1 long one in this back side. So here goes. Let's see how fiddly this is to put together. So if we line the chassis up first, we're going to have to get 2 screws in the front. So let's just get 1 started. So we want 2 of the shorter screws first off, going into the front of the chassis. Well, it certainly seems a nice enough build so far. So make sure you don't get your belt caught or twisted anywhere. Then we're going to flip it over. So the 2 rear ones are both going to be short. So we'll start by getting one of these shorter ones started. Then we'll get the other short one. And then basically your longer one is going to go to the side that hasn't got the motor plate. So a short one will be in this side, and our longest screw is going to go in the opposite side. So once we've got them started, we can just get all these screwed down. So get these screwed in, just remember your longer one to that side. So that's how we should be looking once we're done. Remember, that's the longest screw, all the others are short. And starting to see the car take shape. You should have nice action on the belt, and it should drive your front diff fine. So let's carry on, see what else we've got. So for this, we've got these lovely foam bits, and it's showing us the longer ones are the A foams that should go in the top of this. So let's see how we go about getting these stuck in. And I'm trying my hardest not to stretch this as I'm putting it in. So that's one. Then we need another A part. So you should be able to just stick them down. Then it's telling us we need the B parts, which should be shorter. So should be able to get them in and then just snip the excess off. I'm just going to stick it back down to here in case we need it for some other parts. Yeah, I must admit, that's not as bad as it seemed. So once we've got them stuck in, we're then going to have to position that onto a chassis. So to get this on, we've got a tiny little lip at the front. So if you slide that under, it should then clip down. So just get it slid under that little sort of catch, and it looks like it lines up all the way down the chassis. So that's gone on fine. So well, let's see what else we need. So once we've got that into position, we've then got these two little clips that hold it down. So we're going to get one of those, and then we should be able to line two of these little screws up. So we just need to get these two tightened down. Then we got the same for the front one. So we get that into position, and again, two little screws. So with a bit of luck, them 4 screws and these 2 clips should hold the belt guard down. So once we've got these 2 in, make sure it's still in its clip at the front. these two will hold it there, and we've got another one to hold it at the back, and the foam should keep any crud off his belt. So let's carry on. Right, so for this one we're going to need another tiny little bit of foam, and it's going to go and sit inside this part and then just drop it down. If you just squash it in there. So once we got the foam in that part, we need a little bit of thread lock on all the screws for this, because they're all going into aluminium. So let's quickly get assembling this. We need as upper deck supports, and they're going into the two holes at the side of the center brace. So we've got one hole that's just back, one hole that's just back from it. So let's see if we can get these lined up. So we should have one support in that hole. We should have as next support in that one. So that's where they should go. Then we want as tower, and this one's going to be facing backwards. So this is going to be our next two holes that line up kind of with the motor mount. So let's get that into position. And every one of these screws will need thread locking because they're all into alloy. So that's where that one goes. Them two go in there. So it's that screw, that screw, that screw, and that one. And then finally we need to get our little plate on the back. So for this we just need two of these little E clips again, or C clips, on the end of our hinge pins. And again, these are the smaller ones in this bag. So we need one of them in position, and they slide through from the inside towards the rear of the RC, and they can be a bit of a pain to put on these, and I'm pretty sure when we're putting them on the other ends, when it's already on the RC, it's going to be even more of a pain. But you can get them on. You just have to be patient and watch they don't fly off. So this is going to be put through from the inside, and it will just clip down into position. And then again, we got his thread lock on these, and we're just going to quickly screw these into position and then just wipe any thread lock that we've got. So that is the layout that we should end up with. As hinge pins through, make sure you put them through first because you ain't getting them in afterwards. So that one lines up with the motor plate, and the shelf faces backwards, and there's two standoffs. And we're kind of getting something that sort of resembles an RC. So we've got 3 more screws to put in just to finish this off. So we're going to want one little screw in this side, and it's not asking us to thread lock these for some reason, but we want one screw in there, one will go in that one in the bottom, and it'll start getting some strength in the actual chassis now. But yeah, must admit, really enjoying the build so far. Can definitely see why there's the belt tensioner, but depending on where the top brace holds it all, it'll change the tension on that, and then we can tension it with the rear actual tensioner. But yeah, really nice build so far. Not the first KYOSHO I've owned, but I think it's the first KYOSHO kit, certainly from this Legendary series. But up to now, quite enjoyable build. The hinge pins can be a little fiddly with them little clips, but other than that, not actually bad to build. So let's wrap this one up. So there we have it, up to part, I believe we're at 14 now, so from 8 to 14, and it's starting to look a bit more like an RC. Quite like the layout of it so far, and it's been an interesting build. Considerably different from any of the modern stuff I've built, but yeah, I quite like the design of it, and there's nothing too awkward. I think the instructions could get a bit sort of overwhelming if you've not really built any RCs, but then again, that's why I do these videos, to help you guys out. But thanks again for watching WTF Rc Cars. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.